Everyone talks about love like it's supposed to be easy. Like if it's meant to be, it'll just work. But let's be honest, that's not how it feels when you love someone who keeps pulling away. You give, they retreat. You open up, they shut down. You start to wonder, is it me? Am I too much? No, you're not too much. You're just trying to love someone who's been taught that love isn't safe. See, one of the greatest misunderstandings about avoidant personalities, the ones who go quiet, the ones who pull back right when things start to feel close, is that they don't care. That couldn't be further from the truth. They care deeply, but love feels dangerous to them. They've spent years teaching their hearts that distance is protection, that silence means control. And if you've ever been in that dynamic, you know exactly what happens next. You start overreaching. You start chasing connection like it's oxygen. You send the text. You explain. You fix. You rehearse every word before you say it, just hoping to be understood. And the harder you try, the further they drift. You think you're fighting for love, but what you're really fighting is fear. Here's the hard truth. Nobody tells you can't outlove someone's fear. You can't argue it away. You can't convince it to trust you, because fear doesn't listen to words. It listens to energy. And that's where this one habit, the one that changes everything, comes in. It's not about chasing. It's not about strategy. It's not about trying to make them come back or finally see your worth. It's about something far more powerful, something that shifts everything from the inside out. The habit is emotional regulation, the ability to stay calm when everything in you wants to panic, the ability to stay grounded when their silence screams, the ability to hold your peace when your heart wants to plead. Because when you stay calm, you're teaching their nervous system and your own a new story. You're saying we're safe, even here, even now. That's the moment things start to change. Not because they suddenly become different, but because you do. And when you change, the entire dynamic changes. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop reacting to fear with more fear. You stop chasing love and you start embodying it. That's when the avoidant starts to feel something they've rarely felt before: safety. Not excitement, not passion, not pressure, safety. And safety is the seed of every real connection. It's what turns fear into trust. It's what turns distance into presence. It's what turns survival into love. So if you're tired of feeling like you're always the one fighting for closeness, if you're exhausted by the cycle of hope and silence, let me tell you this: the power isn't in what they do next. The power is in what you practice next. Because the habit that makes an avoidant feel safe isn't about fixing them. It's about regulating you. And that habit, that one shift, is what we're going to unpack together today. Let's get something straight right from the start. Avoidance isn't the absence of love. It's the protection from love. You see, when someone grows up learning that closeness equals chaos, that emotions lead to rejection, that honesty gets punished, their body, not just their mind, starts to believe that love is unsafe. That belief doesn't disappear just because they meet someone kind, patient, or genuine. It's wired in. It's their nervous system saying, don't get too close, you'll lose yourself again. Now, I want you to picture this. You're standing across from the person you love, and you're reaching out emotionally. You're trying to connect, to understand, to hold space. But on the other side, their brain is translating that connection as pressure. Their body tenses, their chest tightens, and what you mean is love, they experience as threat. So what do? They pull away. They go quiet. They need space. And there you are, confused, hurt, spinning in your own head. You start asking, did I say something wrong? Did I push too much? Are they done with me? No, you didn't do anything wrong. You just triggered their oldest survival pattern. Avoidants don't run from you. They run from the feeling of being trapped, from the fear that if they open up, they'll get swallowed. They've spent their lives controlling closeness, not because they don't want it, but because they don't trust it to last. And this is where most people get stuck, because when the avoidant pulls away, you chase harder. When they go silent, you fill the silence. When they freeze, you perform. You think, if I can just explain it clearly enough, they'll understand. If I can just show them how safe I am, they'll stop running. But what actually happens? The more you chase, the more they retreat. The more emotional you become, the more unsafe they feel. And it's not because you're wrong to care. It's because your emotional intensity, no matter how loving, feels like instability to someone who's built their entire life around control. So you end up in this exhausting cycle, one person reaching, the other retreating, both of you hurting, neither of you healing. But here's the truth that changes everything. You can't make an avoidant feel safe by convincing them they are. You make them feel safe by showing them you are. You do it through consistency, through steadiness, through self-regulation. Because when your nervous system is calm, theirs starts to learn that it's okay to stay. This is why your reactions matter so much more than your words. When you panic, they feel unsafe. When you stay grounded, they feel something they don't recognize at first, peace. And that peace, that's the foundation of trust. Not the chasing, not the explanations, not the promises, peace. So if you're wondering why your love doesn't seem to reach them, it's not because it isn't enough. It's because it's not safe enough yet. And that safety begins with the one habit we're talking about today, emotional regulation. The quiet, powerful, daily act of keeping your own calm. Because when you regulate yourself, you start to regulate the relationship. And that's when everything begins to shift. So let's talk about the habit, the one that changes everything. It's not silence. It's not pretending you don't care. It's not manipulation, and it's definitely not a game. The habit is emotional regulation, your ability to stay calm and steady when everything in you wants to react. Now, that might sound simple, but let me tell you, it's the hardest, most life-changing work you'll ever do. Because emotional regulation isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's not about biting your tongue or pretending you're okay when you're not. It's about staying aware enough of your emotions that they don't control you. It's about holding your ground in moments when your nervous system wants to take over. When the avoidant pulls away, your body panics. It says, go after them, fix this, don't let them leave. And that's when most people lose their power, they hand their peace over to fear. But when you regulate, when you pause, breathe, ground, and remember that their distance isn't danger, you're rewriting the pattern. You're teaching your brain, I can be safe even when someone else needs space. And guess what happens when you do that? The energy between you shifts because avoidance feeds off emotional chaos. It thrives on the push and pull. It expects panic, control, pleading. That's the rhythm. It knows. But when you stop playing that rhythm, when you stay calm instead of collapsing, something profound happens. Their nervous system that's been trained for threat starts to relax. They start to feel something they didn't expect to feel with you, safety. And let me tell you something powerful people fall in love with, where they feel safe. You can't force them to open up. You can't demand vulnerability, but you can become a space where their nervous system finally exhales. That's what emotional regulation does. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it is transformative. Now, let's make this real for you. You get that text that feels distant, or worse, no text at all. Instead of spiraling, you pause. You take a deep breath. You remind yourself, this is my moment to stay steady. You feel the urge to explain, to chase, to send that long message that starts with, I just want to understand. But you stop. You regulate. You let silence be your message, not as punishment, but as peace. That's not indifference. That's power. That's emotional maturity. That's the moment you stop reacting and start leading, because emotional regulation is leadership. It's you saying, I'm going to bring peace into this relationship, even when fear tries to run the show. And over time, that calm consistency rewires everything. Your nervous system learns safety. Theirs mirrors it back. And before you know it, you're not the one chasing closeness anymore. You're the one creating it. That's the real secret. The avoidant doesn't begin to trust because you said all the right words. They begin to trust because For the first time, they can feel safety in your presence. And that safety, it's not a performance, it's not a script, it's a practice. A daily, moment by moment practice of self regulation. That's the habit. That's the bridge between fear and connection. That's how love starts to heal instead of hurt. Let's go deeper, because this isn't just emotional talk. This is biology. This is how your nervous system actually learns safety. Every single one of us has what's called a threat system inside our body. It's ancient. It's wired for survival. It scans every moment of your life asking one question: am I safe? Now, for someone with an avoidant attachment style, the answer to that question has been no for a very long time. Their nervous system was trained often in childhood to associate closeness with loss, love with chaos, and vulnerability with pain. So when you get close, when you reach out, when you express emotion, it doesn't land as warmth, it lands as danger. Not because you're dangerous, but because their body still thinks connection means pain. You can tell an avoidant all day long, I'm safe, you can trust me. But their nervous system doesn't learn through logic, it learns through experience. It learns through repeated, consistent cues of calm. That's why emotional regulation, your calmness, your tone, your presence is so powerful. It's not just good behavior, it's nervous system communication. Your calm says, we're okay. Your steadiness says, you can exhale. Your non-reactivity tells their body, you don't need to run. And over time, that starts to rewire their internal map of love. You're showing them something new. That intimacy doesn't have to mean intensity. That connection doesn't have to equal control. That love can feel steady instead of suffocating. Now, there's something called co-regulation, and this is where it gets really fascinating. Co-regulation means that your nervous system and theirs are constantly in conversation, even when you're not speaking. It's the invisible dialogue beneath every interaction. That's why if you're anxious, they'll pull further away, because your anxiety signals to their system something's wrong. But if you're calm, if you breathe, if you ground, if you stay steady, their body starts to mirror yours. That's not just metaphorical. That's neuroscience. Mirror neurons, vagal tone, parasympathetic activation, all the science backs up what love has known all along. Peace teaches peace. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to stay zen every moment. You just have to be consistent. Safety isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in small, predictable moments. It's built when you stay soft in your tone, even when you're hurt. It's built when you give space without resentment. It's built when you regulate your nervous system instead of trying to regulate theirs. Because when you do that, you become what psychologists call a secure base, the emotional anchor that the avoidant never had. And that, my friend, is what changes everything. When they finally feel your steadiness, not as control, but as comfort, they begin to relax. Their defenses start to melt. Their walls, those high, cold, silent walls, begin to soften. That's the science of love. That's what healing looks like on a nervous system level. And that's why this habit, your calm, your consistency, your regulation, isn't optional. It's essential, because your nervous system is teaching theirs what safety feels like. And that's something they've been searching for their entire life. Let's make this real, because theory doesn't change your life. Practice does. I want you to picture something. It's a Tuesday night. You've texted someone you care about, maybe someone who's avoidant, maybe just someone emotionally distant, and you see the message delivered, but not read. Hours go by. That familiar panic starts to creep in. You feel that wave of, what did I do wrong? Did I say too much? Did I lose them again? Now, right there, that's the crossroads. That moment is where everything changes or repeats. Most people go into reaction mode. They send a follow-up text. Or two, they replay the last conversation. They talk themselves into a spiral of overthinking. But the person who's practicing emotional regulation, the person who's learning this one habit, does something radically different. You pause. You breathe. You say to yourself, This silence is not danger, it's space. You don't fill it, you let it breathe. Because when you do that, you're teaching your body something powerful. I can be safe, even in uncertainty. And that message, that self-safety, becomes the anchor that changes how you show up everywhere. Let me give you another moment. You're in a disagreement. The avoidant partner is shutting down, going quiet, withdrawing into that invisible cave of self-protection. The old version of you might chase them in there, trying to talk, trying to fix, trying to pull them out. But that's not regulation. That's reaction. So this time, you do it differently. You take a breath. You say calmly, I hear you. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Then you let go, not in anger, in peace. Do you know what happens in that silence? Their nervous system starts to process something foreign, someone who's not trying to control them, someone who's not turning their distance into punishment, someone who is simply there, grounded and consistent. That's emotional safety in action. Now let's talk about an everyday version, not a crisis moment, just real life. You're sitting together, they seem distant, you feel the instinct to fill the space, to talk, to ask if something's wrong, but instead, you soften your energy, you lean back, maybe smile, maybe just sit in the quiet with them. That's emotional regulation too. It's nonverbal communication that says we're okay even when we're quiet. Because for an avoidant, quiet used to mean danger. It meant tension, disconnection, rejection. But when you stay calm in the quiet, you're teaching them that silence can also mean peace. And it's not just about them. These moments teach you something profound, that you don't need constant reassurance to feel grounded, that your worth doesn't depend on their validation, that you can hold your own calm. That's what I mean when I say this habit changes everything, because it changes you first. And when you change, the whole energy of the relationship shifts. You become what I call an emotional anchor. You're no longer reacting to their fear, you're modeling what safety looks like. You're not demanding connection, you're inviting it. You're not chasing, you're becoming magnetic. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean you tolerate being ignored or mistreated. It means you know the difference between reacting from fear and responding from power. It means you know how to meet disconnection with dignity. And the longer you practice this, the more you'll see a quiet miracle happen. They start to come closer, they start to linger, they start to stay. Not because you convinced them to, but because your calm gave their fear a place to rest. That's the power of emotional regulation. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, but it's steady. And steady is what heals. There's a moment, and it's almost imperceptible, when something starts to shift. You won't see fireworks. There won't be a sudden confession or a big romantic breakthrough. What happens is quieter than that, more human than that. One day, you'll notice they linger a little longer before leaving. They answer a message they would have ignored before. They ask you a small question, something ordinary, like, how was your day? But this time, they actually listen to the answer. That's not random. That's trust being born. You see, when you practice calm consistency, when you respond instead of react, their nervous system begins to register something brand new. It's safe here. And that's monumental for someone whose body has lived in self-protection for years. You're no longer a potential threat to their independence. You're a steady rhythm in a world that once felt unpredictable. Avoidance tests stability without even knowing they're doing it. They withdraw, go quiet, delay responses, not because they want to hurt you, but because they're asking, will you still be safe if I pull away? And when you stay grounded, respectful, unshaken, something inside them unclenches. They start to realize closeness doesn't have to mean control. Intimacy doesn't have to mean invasion. Their body, not just their mind, starts to learn that connection can coexist with freedom. That's the shift. It's not that they stop being avoidant overnight, it's that they stop acting from fear. And you can see it in the smallest ways. They start to share a memory they've never mentioned before. They admit they've been struggling, just a little. They look at you with a softness you haven't seen before. And here's what's really beautiful. They may not even realize they're changing, but you will. because you'll feel the difference. It's in the tone of their voice, the way they show up, the way they stay. And you'll know this isn't manipulation. It's healing. It's what psychologists call earned security. When someone learns through consistent safety that love doesn't have to mean loss. This is where emotional regulation proves its worth. Because your calm didn't just help you survive the relationship, it became the medicine that helped them trust again. But here's the thing, the goal was never to fix them. The goal was to lead with peace, no matter what they chose to do. That's what makes this so powerful. You didn't wait for them to earn your calm. You gave it because that's who you decided to be. And in doing so, you showed them something no one else has ever shown them before. That love doesn't demand. It allows, it invites. And when an avoidant starts to feel that, truly feel it, it changes the entire relationship. They begin to want closeness. They start showing up not out of guilt or need, but out of genuine desire, because they finally trust that they can be themselves with you, messy, uncertain, imperfect, and still be safe. That's not just love. That's freedom. And it started because you learned how to stay steady in the storm. Now, here's where we turn the mirror back on you, because this habit, this calm, this ability to stay grounded when everything feels uncertain, it's not just changing them, it's changing you. When you start practicing emotional regulation, something profound happens inside your own life. You begin to realize that peace doesn't depend on another person's response. It depends on your ability to hold space for yourself. Think about it. All those moments when you used to spiral, when you used to chase, when you used to beg for clarity or reassurance, what you were really asking for was safety. You didn't just want them to come back. You wanted to feel safe again. And now you're learning that safety doesn't come from their presence. It comes from your presence. That's the real transformation. The habit that makes an avoidant feel safe is the same one that makes you secure. Because when you stop reacting to fear, you stop identifying with it. You stop being the person who's constantly trying to prove your worth. You start becoming the person who knows it. And here's what's beautiful. This practice doesn't just heal relationships. It heals patterns. You start noticing how you talk to yourself in moments of silence. You start catching the stories that used to drive your panic. They don't care. I'm not enough. It always ends this way. You start replacing them with truth. I am safe. I can handle this. I'm not losing them. I'm finding me. That's emotional regulation, not repression, not denial, reclamation. You reclaim your calm. You reclaim your boundaries. You reclaim your self-respect because you finally understand peace isn't passive. It's powerful. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about knowing you can care without collapsing. And once you embody that, the entire energy of your life changes. People feel it. They respond to it. Even the avoidant, the distant, the disconnected, they start mirroring it back. Because the truth is, when you stop trying to control others, you start inspiring them. That's what your calm does. It doesn't manipulate. It models. It says, this is what safety feels like. And you know what else? It shows you what kind of love you deserve, the kind that doesn't require you to chase it, prove it, or earn it. Because the moment you stop outsourcing your peace, you stop attracting people who thrive on your panic. You rise above the old cycle. You stop being the rescuer, the fixer, the emotional contortionist. You become the anchor. And from that anchor, every relationship, even the one with yourself, starts to transform. So let me say it clearly. This isn't about becoming calm so someone else stays. This is about becoming calm so you do. You stay with yourself through the discomfort, through the silence, through the uncertainty. Because when you can stay, when you can hold your peace no matter what you've already won, that's the power of this habit. It doesn't just heal love, it heals identity. Something changes when you stop trying to control love and start learning how to connect through peace. That's when you step into real strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove, persuade, or perform. Because here's the truth, control was never about power. It was about fear. The fear that if you didn't hold everything together, it would fall apart. The fear that if you didn't chase, you'd be forgotten. The fear that if you didn't fix, you wouldn't be loved. But the more you tried to control love, the further it slipped through your fingers. Because love was never meant to be held that tightly. It's not a cage, it's a current. And the moment you stop fighting it, you finally began to flow with it. That's what emotional regulation does. It transforms control into connection. It turns grasping into allowing. It turns fear into trust. And this shift, it's not small, it's revolutionary. Because you stop asking, how do I make them stay? And you start asking, how do I stay connected to my peace? No matter what they choose. That one question changes the entire energy of your relationships. It frees you from the exhausting loop of emotional overwork, the chasing, the over-explaining, the constant proving. You stop being the manager of other people's emotions. You become the leader of your own. And what's wild is that the more you release control, the closer real connection becomes. Because safety isn't created by force. It's created by presence, by calm, by consistency, by honesty that doesn't need to shout. You start showing up differently. Your tone softens, your boundaries strengthen, your energy steadies, and people, especially those who used to feel threatened by emotion, feel that difference. They stop reacting defensively. They start responding curiously. This is how love matures. It stops being a battlefield and becomes a dialogue. See, emotional regulation doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you emotionally intelligent. It gives you space between feeling and reacting, that sacred pause where love can actually grow. You stop trying to win the moment. You start choosing to understand it. You stop saying, I need you to calm down, and start embodying calm yourself. And that energy, that grounded, steady, peaceful energy becomes magnetic. It draws in people who are capable of reciprocity. It repels chaos disguised as chemistry. It redefines what intimacy feels like, because real intimacy isn't about being fused together. It's about standing side by side, both whole, both free, both safe. And that's the shift, the real transformation. You stop building love on adrenaline. You start building it on alignment. You stop reaching for validation. You start radiating stability. That's what I mean when I say peace is the new power. You don't lose anything by staying calm. You gain everything. Because that calm isn't apathy. It's mastery. The avoidant begins to sense it. They start to realize this isn't someone trying to control me. This is someone I can trust. And you begin to realize this isn't someone I have to fix. This is someone I can meet heart to heart without losing myself. That's the bridge between fear and connection. That's the moment love stops being survival and starts being sanctuary. Let's bring this home. You've learned something today that most people never do, that the real power in love isn't found in chasing, fixing, or convincing. It's found in safety. And safety doesn't start with someone else. It starts with you. When you regulate your emotions, you're not being passive. You're being powerful. When you stay calm instead of collapsing, you're not giving up, you're stepping up. When you choose peace over panic, you're showing the world what strength really looks like. Because here's the truth. Love doesn't thrive in chaos. It grows in consistency. It deepens in safety. It lasts in peace. That's what this habit is really about. It's not about becoming someone the avoidant won't run from. It's about becoming someone you don't run from. Because when you can sit in silence and still feel safe, when you can face distance and still stay grounded, when you can love without losing yourself, that's when you've mastered the art of real connection. You're not chasing love anymore, you're embodying it. You're not fighting for attention, you're radiating calm. You're not begging for understanding, you're becoming it. And that's the shift that changes everything. The avoidant may still have their moments. They may still retreat. still test, still question, but your calm, your steadiness, your safety, it doesn't waver. And that consistency, it speaks louder than any words ever could. Because when love feels safe, it becomes free. When love feels calm, it becomes deep. When love feels consistent, it becomes real. So if you take one thing from this, let it be this truth. You are the safe place. You are the calm in the storm. You are the rhythm that steadies chaos. You are the person whose presence teaches others how to exhale. And that right there is the most powerful form of love there is. So practice the habit every day, every moment. When fear rises, breathe. When silence hurts, stay steady. When your mind races, come home to your calm. Because emotional regulation isn't just a habit, it's your new foundation. It's how you stop surviving love and start living it. Real love doesn't start with passion. It starts with peace. And peace begins with you.